I'm Biba, and I'm delighted to be part of this conference. And I would like to pay my respect to Paths in Apollo Bay in Victoria. Today, hopefully, I can contribute with my PhD a little to join action in supporting immersive heritage. And a special thank you for this opportunity for me to be able to share my paths with you. First, I would like to talk through the joint industry-based research initiative to support this research. The emphasis will be placed on presenting the practical problem Victorian museums deal with. Then I will introduce my approach in developing a conceptual but user requirements-driven framework to support collaborative immersive design endeavors. I will conclude with the potential benefits and some further ideas that I have that I believe this research can provide. My PhD research began in 2018 to explore possibilities of immersive technology in enhancing visitor experiences. The research has been done at the National Surfing Museum in Turkey. This museum is dedicated to telling stories of surfing, and it's the only surfing. The 81 provides an illustrative example of how the
Biba, sorry to interrupt.
And validate.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask you to, it might help to turn off your video. We're just getting a little bit of lag. And if anyone else with video on, if you could turn it off, that might help. Thank you. Sorry. Please continue.
Like this.
Yes, wonderful.
Perfect. Yeah, I think so, because I think I have a little bit in this corner of the world. Yeah, there is some. And that's also digital divide that I think it's also for museums all over. It's an issue how to deal with digital heritage. Okay, and this to create that study prototype surflines. Now, I would like to start off by introducing the uniqueness of Bell's 81 surfing heritage. And by the way, is there any surfer out there? Sydney-based pro surfer shaper Simon Anderson put his surfboard design invention, the three-fin thruster, to a test at the Rip Curl Pro Bell's 81. No one predicted solid 20-feet waves rolling into Bell's bowl. This simplistic graphical presentation shows Simon's performance with his long bottom turn before doing a huge carve on the face of the wave, on the 15+ wave. The thruster could do the same in small waves. Of course, Simon was a Bell's winner that year. He started a new era in surfboard design and wave riding. Unpatented, the thruster was replicated worldwide and placed Simon and Bell's as one of the most influential figures and events in surfing history. But how design can be done, I asked myself. To direct you with reading of this figure, heritage interpretation practice is used to communicate desired heritage to the public. There are different types of audience, such as online, on-site, think, streamline, existing and new. There is also a range of different ways to engage with audience, providing various heritage experiences. But experiences are intangible, happening inside each of us. So the question arises of whether it is all possible to design them. The immersive digital heritage experience that I am looking at consist of heritage assets, such as tangible, intangible, and digital, all blurred into unique forms of the sensory realities between the real and virtual world. Increased level of sensory immersion within heritage experiences enables visitors to experience heritage intensely. So the local museum would like to communicate Bells 81 heritage story to visitors using a VR headset within museum settings. Immersive digital experiences are regarded with increasing interest by the museum industry, yet their diffusion remains somehow partial and on ad hoc basis. In general, adopting any new technology has always been a challenge, especially for non-technical professionals. Obviously, technological rules, I will expand on this later on, are developed by and for professionals in the immersive industry, thus hard to use by museum professionals. Existing recommendations, on the other hand, for museums are mainly to be of descriptive nature. In between, there are important evidence-based guidelines produced by and for museum professionals that have received prominent attention. However, applying immersive design for heritage interpretation is still a challenge many museums face. Besides, the massive guideline industry has created special problems such as information overloaded. The museum expertise has not always found its way into actual guidelines. Thus, this thorough understanding of what would make a difference in the existing guidelines base or world was crucial for me to start the development of the framework. Let's put the technological rules into some kind of perspective. Regardless of many definitions, they all emphasize the need for an intervention outcome logic. They follow the logic: if you want to achieve Y in situation Z, then perform action X. The core of the rule is this X, a general solution concept. These provide instructions to be followed more or less unquestionably. There are also rules with a more abstract nature, which can be described as: if you want to achieve Y in situation Z, then perform something like action X. They are used as design exemplars, as a starting point. All these rules are made for competent professionals in the field of questions. My intention was to provide a playground to identify and weigh design alternatives to be able to choose the most satisfying possible one for a given situation. Thus, I have modified the rule into: if you want to achieve something like Y in situation Z, then perform something like action X. In other words, I was looking for a specific intervention or series of interventions to produce a certain desired outcome or performance in a given settings. For example, for the less digital literate museum professionals, nothing is there to help them straightforward with just this simple idea: if I want my visitor to play with the surfboard, then make a 3D model. It became apparent that I will be looking at users of immersive digital experiences from both co-creator and visitor perspective, with the constant interplay between what creator can engineer and what visitor can benefit from. A diverse team of museum professionals, technical professionals, representatives of the surf industry, and museum visitors are co-creators within this research. Imagine this: how productive would decision-making process be if there would be one framework that co-creators could use to discuss their ideas on immersive design alternatives. Let me briefly provide the background to the framework realization. First, for the framework to benefit its users, I explored in depth its inner workings, such as the components it should consist of and how they should interact with each other. The emphasis was placed on arranging critical elements that contribute to increased level of sensory immersion to enable identifying paths of immersion. Second, the three-step validation process was undertaken. Survey research, making the prototype, and action research. Let's look at each step in more depth now. Survey participants, Victorian representatives of the museum and immersive industry, proved an urgent need for a guideline that would ease their decision-making to identify, weigh, and choose the best possible design alternative. Furthermore, by conducting interviews using my initial framework, I have asked 14 participants to express how the framework should support their activities. Based on the findings, I have created the refined user requirement-driven framework. And I could start to make the study prototype surf lines. Oops. The study prototype surf lines was built to be a collection of some techniques of experimental interpretation of different material within the virtual environment. First, I have gathered many materials, notes, and surfing data from the museum archive, endless dialogue with surfers, and lots of field work. Next, sketching the narrative yielded discussion tools. The check wheel is here to guide the material selection process for digital asset availability. Oops. Where's another one? Ah. That's funny. One slide is missing. So also, okay. And investigation tools are also help to understand the grammar of interactive and immersive storytelling that includes spatial and sensory literacy for creating embodied narratives. For example, the tool Be Engaged helps identify what visitor cannot do. And the tool C, Connections, facilitates identifying and waiving the path of immersion alternatives by connecting capture and exhibition technology for higher sensory immersion. But what I was really aiming for was to validate the usefulness of the framework in a real-world setting at the museum with a diverse team, including visitors. A workshop trilogy was designed to prompt participants to take both the creating and visitor roles. Based on their study prototype experience, they were completing 3 tasks using investigation tools. The result shows that the tools provide a common ground for a diverse team to generate and convert ideas into prototypes. However, more work needs to be done to facilitate group participation. This image shows excitement to learn about local heritage through experiencing the study prototype and transforming the museum into co-prototyping place. For me to be able to talk you through distinctive characteristics of the framework, I am thankful to my enthusiastic participants willing to take part in quiet time, consuming and complex tasks in the midst of the pandemic times that highlights that museum physicalness still matters. Freedom, the framework provides complex content as it integrates immersive design elements as well as design exemplars while not limiting creativity in making own paths of immersion. But how did I simplify this complexity to provide a discussion playground common for co-creators? Scalability with depth of knowledge levels, Plus, there are choices of entry point for co-creators to discuss alternatives based on their professional experiences and interest of design constraints. This makes the framework scalable, the ability to use the framework by a diverse team. But how these different perspectives have been discussed? Versatility with discussion tools, with digital assets, including check wheel and investigation tools. They represent critical steps within the design process. Plus, it turned out that these tools can yield data that can be used beyond their initial purpose to make informed, immersive design decisions. For example, the investigation tool affirmations can contribute to audience research and human-centered experience research. As such, this makes discussion tools versatile, the ability to produce versatile data. And this is the framework created and validated within this research, together with the template of creating different design alternatives to choose between them. As at the heart of any research is how to put new knowledge into practice. So at the end, I ask myself 3 questions. What is the impact of my research and who benefits from it? And why do I want to make a difference? The purpose of this joint venture is to support museum professionals to familiarize themselves with typical immersive design solution concepts, let's say like variant design. And at the same time, technological professionals can use the framework to explain to them all possible paths of immersion to choose the most satisfying alternative possible or working on radical ones. A thorough understanding and strategy about heritage assets, I believe, can complement historical, social, educational, research, spiritual, heritage values with digital value. Most importantly, reaching out less digital literate museums to benefit from all our research should support them starting small and growing digital. Yet, without visitors, all this would be almost in vain. So I strongly believe together museums should become as a participatory co-prototyping places in the future. So based on my research findings and notes, I grouped my proposal into these 3 clusters that you can see on the slide, like practice, cross-sectors, and visitors. I highlight my ideas in red. But for the end, what I would like also to deliver this message that as regards to further work on my Paths of Immersion framework, I am very much interested in gamification of the framework into digital form for co-creators to start to create and play with different digital alternatives. Thank you.